usted. Check, check. Let me know if y'all can hear me by giving us a big old thumbs up, or just a comment in the chat would be much appreciated. And looks like we are coming through live. And I hope y'all are having a great weekend. A few things that I wanted to discuss with y'all and bounce off you guys out there in internet land, and see if y'all are as amused with the things that are conspicuously not in the news, like SpaceX rocket crash. I guess it was yesterday. I get in the habit of just doing a random Google search for NASA news on a fairly regular basis because of all the nonsense that comes out of that camp, right? But today, when I did the NASA news search, I got a bunch of results from the Times of India, the Indian Express, Hindustan Times, and they're all the same basically headline. SpaceX Starship reaches space before exploding. NASA chief congratulates SpaceX on Starship's explosive second launch test. That's from space.com. The Atlantic says SpaceX is holding up America's lunar ambitions. Wow. And that's saying a lot, isn't it? Because as far as I could tell, ain't we already been there, done that with the whole lunar ambitions thing back in the late 60s, early 70s, right? I don't know, man. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into a few other things. I would have had a nice, pretty thumbnail for this stream put together, but my computer had to update, and it literally takes an hour for my computer to reboot and get to a point where I can functionally do at least one thing with one software application. So it's not exactly an Alienwares, but I make do. But yeah, so a lot of stuff to talk about today, and we're gonna get into all that. It looks like we've got 13 of y'all, 15 of y'all in the stream, and only 4 thumbs up. So please do me a favor and make sure and give us a big old thumbs up if you can hear me loud and clear. That way I'll be able to continue on, get on down the line with this stream. But yeah, it is heartwarming to see just billions and billions of dollars wasted on a single rocket launch to nowhere. And it is funny how they conspicuously really don't cover that very heavily in the domestic news. You've got to go to Hindu Times and Indian Times to get those sorts of headlines, because I could be mistaken. Maybe some further research is warranted, but doesn't SpaceX get a lot of their funding from our tax dollars? Earthship Bear says, if you're watching, give it a Rogan. Yeah, come on, y'all. Come on, guys. Give me a Rogan. Whatever that means. Sounds nice. Probably a lot of money involved in a Rogan, right? So a video came across my feed today, and I so badly want to do some live video responses for some of these videos that I see, but unfortunately with the setup I've got right now, I'm not really able to do that. So I'll probably end up doing a video on, so I'm not even going to mention it no more, but God willing, hopefully I'll be in a better position in the next couple of months to where I can invest in things like equipment, audio equipment, computer equipment. I can't invest in anything but hotel rent right now. And of course, unless I'm able to come up with a miracle by tomorrow, I'm going to be out in the damn street with the dog tomorrow. So that's always looming. God willing, we'll come up with something. But okay, so I think my computer is warmed up enough to where I can go through this article because it is funny. Okay, so the Times of India, SpaceX's Starship reaches space before exploding. Heavy booster also disintegrates, and NASA congratulates team. So I guess NASA is like the congratulatory agency when you waste billions of dollars on big fat nothing burgers, right? SpaceX launched its Starship rocket, the largest ever built, which could potentially aid in the colonization of Mars and the moon. So first off, I'm here to tell you that nobody's ever going to colonize the Mars or the moon. The moon and Mars are merely lights in the sky, right? But of course, billions and billions of dollars wasted is something to congratulate SpaceX on. New Delhi, Elon Musk's SpaceX on Saturday launched and placed its quote-unquote Starship into space before suffering a setback as the spacecraft experienced rapid unplanned disassembly around 8 minutes into the flight. So I guess are they being tongue-in-cheek with these euphemisms, or like that's what NASA's calling it, or SpaceX is calling it, a rapid unplanned disassembly? And I am curious, so let me just take a break from this article real quick, and I'm just doing a quick Google search to find out how much of SpaceX budget comes from tax dollars. SpaceX alone got a whopping $2.8 billion in government contracts last year, according to the information, and has gotten a total of $15.3 billion from the government since 2003. Yeah, Earthship Bear, rapid unplanned disassembly. And that seems a little on the low end, because what is the whole argument about NASA like not really being involved with space stuff anymore? I mean, I thought, what was that whole thing like? So what is it? NASA is no longer part of the military or something about the, the narrative with NASA that they were winding down or something. What is that? I don't even know. But so let's see how much of NASA budget comes from tax dollars. Says the United States government spent approximately $6.6 trillion in fiscal year 2020, of which $22.6 billion was provided to NASA. Okay, so $22.6 billion, about roughly 10% of that went to SpaceX. The thing is so if you look up SpaceX's Starship program, so the thing that just rapidly disassembled unplanned style yesterday, for all I can tell on that rocket is a $5 to $10 billion investment. So, first of all, so like, shouldn't SpaceX's stock crash and burn because of this? And of course not. Because space is like the only scientific field where you can just literally burn billions and billions of dollars on nothing, like just waste money left and frickin' right, and continue to get increased annual budgets every year. That's the key attractive thing about scientism for people like Elon Musk. Because we all know that scientism, especially theoretical astrophysics, is so far in the realm of not falsifiable, not demonstrable, not tangible, so far in the realm of the intangible, right? That really nothing they can do is wrong. No matter how many mistakes they make or how many billions of dollars they waste crashing and burning rockets, allegedly, right? If we can even believe that this actually happened in real life. Oh, but I saw it on TV. Oh, but I saw it in real life. Project Bluebeam is a real thing. I guess I'm getting a little bit far ahead of myself here, but just thinking out loud here, folks. Just thinking out loud. So back to this quote from IndiaTimes.com. Rapid unplanned disassembly around 8 minutes into the flight. The booster, which was supposed to land in the Gulf of Mexico, also exploded seconds after separating from the space vehicle, I would say LIveMobile. The nearly 400-foot tall vehicle comprises two elements, both of which are designed to be fully and rapidly reusable. Good luck reusing that mofo after it rapidly self-disassembled in an unplanned sort of style, right? But they're intended to be rapidly reusable, not rapidly self-disassembling, right? Yeah, it did. It fell apart, YouTube. It frickin' exploded. A first stage booster called Super Heavy and 165-foot tall, 50 meters upper stage known as Starship. And so here's the thing. When hypothetically, if NASA and even SpaceX are massive money laundering operations, which I suspect is at least theoretically possible, right? Really, if you think about it, destroying billion-dollar rockets is perfect. Like, that's the best possible business plan you could ever have in terms of money laundering in a sort of space sort of deception, right? Perfect. That's the best sort of outcome, because now you've got all these billions of dollars that just evaporated into thin air. So it really is good for that sort of negative balance ledger or whatever, right? I guess you have to be criminally minded like NASA to see the benefit in destroying billions of dollars worth of LIveMobiles, right? Back to the quote, Saturday's launch comes after the first attempt to fly the spaceship in its fully stacked configuration back in April ended in a spectacular explosion over the Gulf of Mexico. The two components had failed to separate during the April launch, and Starship never made it to space. And tell me again, where are they launching from? Are they launching from like Kennedy Space Center or what? So let me just check this real fast, because I didn't see it yet. Unless I read it and glossed over it, I don't think that they said where exactly. Oh, so they're launching from Texas. Is that right? Earthship Air? Okay, Teja, good old Teja. Okay, cool. So let me get back to the article. My computer is a little bit slow on the upchuck, so it takes a minute just to go from one tab back to the other tab. Okay, the Starship is the largest rocket ever built that the company, SpaceX, hopes will one day help the colonization of Mars and the Moon. Well, they're off to a pretty shitastic start, ain't they? The Super Heavy booster produces 74.3 meganewtons of thrust, almost double that of the world's second most powerful rocket, NASA's Space Launch System. So tell me again, I think that's what it is. So YouTube says, I understand that they're using freaky lingo trying to act cute. Right, I think that's what they were doing with the with that whole unplanned rapid disassembly thing. That was probably the cutest thing I've ever heard come from NASA news. But again, this is coming from overseas, so it is, what do you expect? Um, NASA has picked Starship to be the first crewed, like having a crew, CREWED, not crude, the first crewed lunar lander for its Artemis program. And the vehicle has several private moon missions on its docket as well. So basically, they've planned all this for the backbone workhorse of their alleged plans to colonize Mars and the Moon. But so far, what is it? 100% of the time, the thing fails catastrophically in a literal, well, not an explosion, a rapid disassembly, rapid unplanned disassembly. Private moon missions. So that is interesting language, though, isn't it? So let me just reread that last little bit. NASA has picked Starship to be the first crewed lunar lander for its Artemis program, and the vehicle has several private moon missions on its docket as well. So they've already got these things planned and probably paid for, I reckon, right? Or at least money's earmarked for it. But what does a private moon mission look like? Why is NASA planning private moon missions using SpaceX Livemobiles? Like, what happened to all of the probably trillions and trillions of dollars that our tax dollars fed into the money laundering beast that NASA certainly is, all throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, like the last 50 plus years, right? What happened to all of that technology, and why now are we suddenly abandoning all of that for favor of something that SpaceX can't even seem to get to launch off the ground? I just don't understand I do understand the waste, but I don't understand how, average Joe normie can continue to believe that NASA and SpaceX are on the up and up and believe this shtick that they are spinning in order to justify all these billions and billions of dollars that we certainly couldn't use domestically. It's a pretty big problem, the whole homelessness thing, and the irony is there too. So I live on the East Coast in South Carolina, but I've seen videos of the big cities, especially on the West Coast, San Francisco. The homeless problem is kind of a big deal, I think. And if you just sit there and do some basic arithmetic, like how easy would it be to really make a dent in that monetarily, especially considering the fact that, at least the last time I saw this data, for every homeless family, there's like one or two vacant houses just sitting there vacant, right? And yet, we can just afford to throw away billions of dollars in tax money to NASA for absolutely fuck all nothing, excuse the language. We can afford to shell off billions and billions of dollars to fight proxy wars over in Russia, Ukraine, billions of more dollars to shell over to Israel to basically butcher their neighbors. Innocent men, women, and children. Prayers go up for Palestine, of course. We can afford that. We can afford just billions and billions of dollars for proxy wars and to launch rockets to nowhere and give each other pats on the back for literally wasting $5 billion at least in one launch. Not to mention the last launch that SpaceX did failed in a similar catastrophic failure. And yet when it comes to, providing housing for homeless people, there really is not much of a safety net. That's really left up to the private sector from what I can tell. And, I guess there are so there is housing based on income that goes on a sliding scale, but the waiting lists for that sort of housing is up into the months or years. So basically if you get to a financial situation in this greatest, richest, most technologically advanced country that ever was or ever will be, basically, if you get financially ruined enough, your ass is going to be basically out in the cold, out in the street, without much of a safety net to prevent that. It's, to me, it's crazy. Like, I don't know, just compare the amount of money it would take to house, 1 million people. Like, how many, what is it, like 25 million homeless people in the United States? Is that the number? I think it's something like that. Let me just check, because maybe I'm way off. Sorry, my computer is so slow. If anybody wants to type in the number of homeless people in America right now, estimated, and just put it up in the chat, I would appreciate it. But I think it's like 25 million. My computer's just so damn slow, like I can't even tab over. All right, there it goes. It tabbed over. And eventually I'll even be able to type something in the search box too. But okay, so assuming that's even close, and maybe I'm way off, but assuming that's even close, it wouldn't like cost, I don't think. So if you were to take like NASA's annual budget for say 5 years, right? If you were to take NASA's annual budget for 5 years and apply that to really aggressive solutions for the homeless problem, and a lot of that I think would entail mental health stuff, because I do understand there's a lot of homeless people that are just totally crazy, right? Like they've lost their minds. And back in the 1800s, somehow they could afford to put up ballin' ass mansions for the lunatics, but nowadays not so much, right? Whoa. So under 1 million homeless people in the United States, really? That's it? That can't be right. I mean, maybe you're right. Why does it seem so low? So come on, baby. How many homeless people in the US today? $582,000 homeless people in the United States. So 5 years of NASA's budget would be $127 billion. Yeah, I mean, I think you could probably easily house, and like, you don't even have to give them like mansions or anything, right? But you could put up people in tiny houses or something like that as a, last resort sort of safety net for, just a drop in the bucket, comparatively to what NASA's budget is. And, so here's the thing. If there was actually something to NASA's stated goals, like if there actually was the possibility of these terra firma spheres flying around in space that we could, exploit the resources or maybe move to one day, I get it. I think that would be worthwhile. But, of course, the problem is, well, space couldn't possibly exist. Like infinite space with these terra firma spheres flying around these distant suns, it's a fantasy, man. That's a pipe dream. It is an hallucination. It's a grand delusion. $100 billion sent to Ukraine in the last 2 years. Yeah. Well, and the thing is that money goes to these, to the military industrial complex, which is more or less owned by private shareholders. And these private shareholders may or may not have any sort of allegiance to the United States flag, for sure. And, the scary thing is that same statement can even be applied verbatim to the Federal Reserve Bank, the non-federal, non-reserve bank. It's owned by private shareholders, private banks that have no affiliate. We don't even know who the hell they are, let alone can we guarantee that they have America's best interest in heart? Clearly they don't, right? Clearly they don't. In the case of the Federal Reserve, because, well, they've been stealing our money for the last 100+ years through the hidden tax of inflation. And in the case of the military-industrial complex, they have been taking our money to go and bomb the crap out of brown people the world over in our name, right? So with our money in our name, they're bombing the crap out of people. And, frankly, I don't want that on my conscience. So, here's me yet again, verbally, disassociating myself from the war machine, right? I mean, maybe if I was a better capitalist, I would invest money in things like the war machine. I hear it's very profitable, but, money ain't that important to me, honestly. But isn't it funny how scientism branches off into like all facets of this great deception that we find everywhere? Scientism is literally everywhere. So the other day in my research, I was, because, I'm on this whole kick where I disagree with the atomic theory. So Harmat, we'll come back to atomic theory, but Harmat says, let's say 40 major cities in the lower half of the US times 10,000 homeless equals 400,000. 1 billion divided by 400,000 equals 2,500. Just saying. Yeah, so it's probably not going to solve the problem with 1 billion, but, if you take NASA's budget for 5 years and really aggressively tackle the problem with homelessness, and I think it's a broader issue too. Like, so in modern America, the biggest investment a person is ever going to make in their lives is a home, right? And when you think about it, like a home is kind of like a basic human necessity, is it not? Like you kind of have to have a place to live. And so when you have a competitive, profit-driven, capitalistic market behind the housing industry, that is a big problem, especially when that bubble eventually bursts, as we saw in the case of 2008. There were definitely other factors in that bubble bursting, but $10,000 worth of wood and drywall and materials simply isn't worth multi-millions of dollars just because it's in a house form. I mean, it kind of is, because value is driven strictly by what people perceive. Value is driven by people's faith in that value. And so sure, $10,000 worth of materials put up in a nice house form can be worth multiple millions of dollars in the right neighborhood. That same $10,000 worth of materials in the same house in a different area, in a different neighborhood, may be worth way, way less than that. So, value is a subjective thing. But what I'm getting at is when a basic human necessity like housing becomes the largest investment that a person will ever make, and a bubble grows because of this free market, in my opinion, you're eventually setting yourself up for catastrophic failure. I probably talked about this before, but I've done a lot of different projects in my time as a freelancer, freelance small business owner, working from home, doing like sales and marketing projects and stuff like that. I'll never forget, I spoke with this one guy one time. He was wanting to get cash bids on his houses. The dude owned, I think it was like 48 or 42, more than 40 houses that some of them he had rented out and was still renting out. But like once those tenants moved out, he was just going to sit on them. And he had like 30 plus houses that were just sitting there, like he wasn't going to rent them out. And because of the market, he wasn't going to sell them either. he didn't want to sell a house until he was able to sell it for more than double what he originally invested in it, which, you know, from a capitalist standpoint, you know, guy's brilliant, like very shrewd, sensible, and all about that dollar. But the thing is, that's literally 50 houses that one dude owns that are off the market, that are just not going to be sold until certain, you know, and for all we know, dude, you know, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow is what I'm saying. You're not going to be able to take 50 houses with you when you die. You're not going to be able to take millions of dollars with you to the next realm. So like in that sort of perspective, it's not that valuable. Like, how many homes does a person need? Like, I don't, personally, I've never owned a home in my entire life. I've never owned a home. And so I don't understand the mindset of somebody that owns 50 homes, and basically because he had bad experiences with renters, like he's not going to rent them out anymore. And he was just, so the company that I was working with did like bought houses cash and then would turn around and flip them. And so, you know, for some entrepreneurs, it's much easier and less of a headache to just sell a house cash than to deal with a listing agent, deal with a real estate agent, and have to deal with financing and people passing credit and all that stuff. So a lot of times people will take a cash offer on a house, but like the offers that we were giving him weren't even close to, and they were good offers, like they were good cash offers, but he wasn't going to sell anything. And so, like, with that being said, that adds to this problem to where houses are damn expensive. And in, you know, honestly, in all my life, I've never had so much trouble finding a place, even just to rent. Like it's become much more difficult to, at least in my opinion, in my experience, to find a place to live and get into it. Especially if you've got bad credit, which I do. And especially if you don't have just gobs and gobs of money to put down on something. Anyway, we kind of got off on a sidetrack. But so what I was talking about was all this money that NASA is going to pat SpaceX on the back for wasting. It's beyond me how that does not compute, right? Like, I'm pretty good at math, and I don't understand how wasting $5 to $10 billion on an exploded rocket is anything to be proud of. So where I was going, so the whole atoms thing, I mentioned this and got sidetracked, but so I disagree with the atomic theory, right? And one of the things that I sort of remember in like basic stuff that I learned about atomic theory in school was I was trying to jog my memory, like, how do they calculate the number of electrons in an atom, right? Because they can't image it. It's not like you can get some kind of a microscope to see an atom and count the electrons. So I'm like, okay, how do you count the electrons in an atom? And so it tells you, well, the number of protons and neutrons is relative to the number of electrons. Let me make sure I'm not saying this wrong, because it's funny. It's a perfect example of circular logic fallacy in the institutions of scientism, right? So let's see. How do you count the electrons in an atom? The number of electrons in a neutral atom is equal to the number of protons. The mass number of the atom is equal to the sum of the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus, right? Okay, so then how do you count the number of protons in an atom, right? Because that's directly related, right? How do you count the number of protons in an atom? And here's where it's going to tell you something about the atomic number, I believe. Yeah, the number of protons in the nucleus of the atom is equal to the atomic number. The number of electrons in a neutral atom is equal to the number of protons. The mass number of the atom is equal to the sum of the number of protons and neutrons in the nucleus. Okay, so basically the number of protons in the nucleus of the atom is equal to the atomic number is the short answer that they give you, right? Okay, so how do you calculate the atomic number of an atom? Atomic number in an atom, right? So this is where it's going to loop you all the way back to the electrons, right? So the atomic number of an atom is equal to the number of protons in the nucleus of an atom or the number of electrons in an electrically neutral atom. For example, in a sodium atom, there are 11 electrons and 11 protons. Thus, the atomic number of an A atom equals the number of electrons, number of protons equals 11. So it just takes you in a big circle, a circle jerk, if you will. It's a circular reasoning logical fallacy, which masquerades as science. And of course, this stems from the fact that I wholeheartedly do not believe in atomic theory. I'm convinced that atomic theory was constructed around observations, and numbers were assigned to these hypothetical building blocks of matter. And so the numbers work in chemistry and things like that, and atomic weight. But it doesn't prove that the underlying theory, so like their model is basically little heliocentric models making up the smaller parts of everything, right? So like the protons and neutrons would be loosely akin to the sun in a solar system, and then the electrons would be loosely akin to the planets orbiting the sun in a solar system. And so like atomic bombs, right, in my opinion, are yet another example of propagandized fear porn in order to mass mind control everybody on a massive scale. Hiroshima and Nagasaki built on the same spot, he says, sea lightning. And you know, that's always gonna come up. So the two Japanese cities that are claimed during World War II to have been nuclear bombed, if you look at the footage and the aftermath of the cities, they look strikingly similar to other cities that were carpet bombed and fire bombed by the Allied forces towards the end of World War II. So look at Berlin. Berlin wasn't nuke bombed, but the aftermath is very similar to that of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. But furthermore, you see the propaganda in all of the old United States military reels. The fear porn was absolutely palpable for the children that grew up during that time frame after World War II. It was drilled into, psychologically drilled into the entire country's head that atomic bombs were basically sure to be the end of civilization. If one false step and we were all going to be nuclear toast, right? The thing is, what my position on this is so how can you split an atom, right, if atoms don't exist? You know what I mean? How can you split an atom if there's no such thing as an atom? You feel me? And so in that regard, the only next thing that usually comes up in this conversation, if you're debating somebody about not believing in atomic bombs, they're going to point to atomic energy, right? That always comes up next. What's up, Mojo Shop? So the thing is, atomic energy, in my opinion, is a misnomer. It doesn't have anything to do with atomic theory, really. You take a radioactive isotope, like enriched uranium, and you confine it in a tight metallic structure, and heat is thus generated. It's sort of a natural sequence of events when you've got a radioactive isotope. And then that heat energy that's generated is used to basically power turbines, to create steam. Really, you could call what they have dubbed as nuclear power as like steam power 2.0, because that really is what it is. It's a high-tech version of steam power where instead of, burning coal to boil water, they're just encasing a enriched radioactive isotope to boil the water, but that's it. And so it is definitely used to reinforce atomic theory, and nuclear meltdown is definitely a thing, but it has nothing to do with atomic theory. In my opinion, it's a misnomer. And frankly, like once you understand what we are sort of culturally coming to understand about free energy, it isn't even necessary. Nuclear power ain't even necessary, right? Look at what Nikola Tesla was doing in the early 1900s. And basically, he was shut down by the likes of J.P. Morgan and Thomas Edison, but we won't even get into all that. But again, we see scientism rearing its ugly head in all of these sort of examples. So you've got like the whole atomic counting the electrons thing, circular logical fallacy. When it comes to history, you see this same sort of thing as well. So just for one example, so like anthropological layers in a given area, they'll date the like shards of pottery based on what layer it's found in. And then they also cross-reference and date the layers that those things are found in based on the pottery. So it's like, it's this circular reasoning, circular logical fallacy that masquerades as science. And somehow, like, they've gotten away with this shit for so long. The money system in general, like, I go on and on about this, but it's such a travesty because we're so close to really having a shot at changing things. Unfortunately, they've got people so pussified in so many examples. They've got people pitted against one another. So like Republicans and Democrats, blacks and whites, Bloods and Crips, whatever. They've got just endless ways to divide us against one another. But if we would all just come together on common ground and focus our attention on these really quite psychopathic, evil fuckers in control of things and take back our sovereign ability to issue our own currency and, control the value thereof, that's a big one. But I think it all starts with just people understanding the truth being that the money itself is a scam. The truth being that scientism is, rears its ugly head in so many examples. And if you just start applying some damn discernment towards your belief systems, it's like you're instantly freed of this mechanism of control. You're instantly freed from this grand delusion. But so many people just love their deception, it seems. It can be frustrating, ain't it? Mel Lowe says, chaos is a ladder. When we are divided, they are free to do whatever they want. Bit of a Game of Thrones Game of Thrones quote there, eh? Man. The money system in general branches off into so many other things that are big problems with our modern culture that could so easily be solved. the for-profit prison system. People all the way down the chain of command just yes-sirring it. You've got people that had, the wrong kind of salad in their pocket, put in prison for years next to murderers and rapists. I mean, I think there's something inherently wrong with that system. I mean, obviously so, right? Sweating my ass off here, folks. There's a light right here and it's just making me sweat my ass off. Sorry. The for-profit medical industry. It may not seem like it on first glance, but in my opinion, the fact that the money system is corrupt and run by basically cultural vampires. I mean, the Federal Reserve is, if nothing else, in a word or two, a vampire, a cultural vampire. They're literally sucking the lifeblood and the energy from our culture on the most fundamental of scales, like through our money, right? And because of the fact that people have been trained to really put all of their faith in money, more or less, they've got us by the balls right there, man. Which is why, I'm sorry to say, you've got a lot of people that go to become doctors for the wrong reasons, for the money, not because they inherently want to help people. I mean, sure, there are a lot of doctors that inherently do want to help people, and the fact that they get paid well is just a benefit. On the other hand, you've got bank robbers that are after the money the same as some of these doctors, which is why we see systemic problems like, well, for example, if a cure for cancer was found, it would never be allowed to see the light of day because it's too damaging to the profits of that system. And so, where I'm sitting, man, the system has got to be changed. It's got to go. What's up, Daryl? Howdy, brother. But what can we do? From where we're sitting, and I mean this, this is not just a rhetorical question, but what can we do to change this? I really want to know, man. I mean, where I'm sitting, probably one of the best and most effective things we can do is to raise awareness to these problems. But at some point, something's got to be done. And it's I just don't feel like the regular channels are effective, and the regular channels are set up for failure. I mean, case in point, the fluoridation of our water, man. We can't even get them to stop poisoning our damn water supply, and I know that sounds very defeatist, but, I think that's a good metric. Once we can really get change, have something change with that, I think that would be a good metric to say, hey, we're in the right direction. But, where it's sitting right now, I mean, what chance do we have to get these motherfuckers to change the science books? If we can't even get them to stop poisoning our water with a developmental neurotoxin, for the for the good of the profits of the aluminum manufacturing industry, though, right? But again, all these unrelated things are inherently related at the most fundamental level, because, again, we've got basically demonic vampires, spiritual wickedness in high places running our very monetary supply. And it sounds very shallow to say that the monetary system is that inherently tied to our culture, but it really is. People put their faith in money because at the end of the day, you can't pay your bills on good intentions. You know what I mean? You can't pay your bills with truth. And so we indeed do place the value on the money ourselves with our faith and attention in it. It's a sick, sad thing, but they've got us by the short and curlies. And so let me know, have you guys been getting tons and tons of ads for this either $2,500 or $6,400 stimulus payment? They're calling it a medical stimulus. I mean, for the last probably 3 or 4 months at least, like basically every ad I see on YouTube is this. It's this ad about a medical stimulus, and basically it's totally false advertising. Like they're like advertising it or presenting it as a direct stimulus, as a cash stimulus that you can use to pay your bills or to buy groceries or whatever the case may be. But what it actually is it's a subsidy on health insurance that you can take the money that you usually would have paid for health insurance and take that money and pay your health insurance, and then you'll have extra money left over because of that subsidy. So, but it's very like, it's way beyond gray area slimy. Like, am I the only one that's getting inundated with the ads from like several different companies? But every time I get one, I've been flagging it and reporting the ad, and then it seems like 3 more come to replace it. But like, what is that? Like, between Temu and this cash stimulus thing, it seems like that's the only sponsors I'm seeing on YouTube. Like, what's up with that? Geo Ptolemy says every day. Yeah, every ad I see. Yeah, like, what the crap? Like, and it's totally bogus too. Like, I actually responded to that last year and got the Ambetter insurance that I'm paying $15 a month for. They wrote me into it, but I never got any money out of the deal to pay anything. And so I called them yesterday because it was a different phone number. And basically they will just hang up on me when I start asking them, like, what's up with this stimulus money? You get $12,000 per year and don't qualify for it, Jeffrey Thomas. So, but like, whatever happened to truth in advertising, right? Like, what's up with that? I don't know, man. So, yeah, it covers everything. Oh, we never got to finish the article. So let's finish this SpaceX article, man. The waste of $5 to $10 billion that NASA is congratulating SpaceX for achieving, right? Simon Mills, thank you, brother. Hey, bro, good luck with everything. Oh, super chat, NZ50, thank you. Appreciate that. God bless you, man. Yeah, I'm totally screwed. This will honestly, like, unless I come through with the miracle today or tomorrow, I'm gonna be AFK for a while. Just being frank with you guys, I can't. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I can't afford this place. That's all I've got. So I've been trying to hang on to it. Hopefully I'll be getting into a camper trailer at the 1st of next month. God willing. God willing. It's basically, I've got it paid for almost completely. It needs some work still, which we're working on it. But I may end up being in the car tomorrow. I talked the hotel guy into giving me till tomorrow, and I've got a little bit of money coming. I don't have it. Yeah, but yeah. Jeffrey Thomas, yeah, it is. It's totally a scam. But like, how do we get them to stop? Like, how does a group of people who know that they're doing false advertising on YouTube about this alleged stimulus that they've been shoving down our throats for months, how do we get them to stop? Like, I mean, because it's definitely false advertising. If they, like, these people should be getting hit with fines. You can't just lie like that on advertisements. And you would think that, like, once I've done called them and they won't even talk to me, they'll hang up on me because they know that I know that they're a scam. Why would they continue to advertise to me? I don't get it. Back to the quote, NASA has picked Starship to be the first crewed lunar lander for its Artemis program. And the vehicle has several private moon missions on its docket as well. Oh, come on, this thing won't scroll down. Come on, baby. Bill Nelson, the head of the NASA space agency, which is awaiting a modified version of Starship to land humans on the moon, said Saturday's attempt showed progress. Wait a minute, so how does that show progress? It was a catastrophic failure and it exploded. So wait a minute, so NASA, these are the guys that claim to have gone to the moon in the 1960s and 70s, several times with no problems at all. Now they're saying that SpaceX is making progress because they couldn't even make it like 100 miles. That doesn't make, yeah, mellow. How is that a success? It isn't, right, exactly. That's about as far away from a success as anything could possibly get, man. I'm still trying to scroll down to the end of this freaking article. So here's what he says, quote, "Congrats to the teams who made progress on today's flight test," he said on Twitter. "Spaceflight is a bold adventure, demanding a can-do spirit and daring innovation. Today's test is an opportunity to learn and then fly again." Dude, really? You know, man, could you imagine like catastrophically failing at your job and losing a company $5 or $10 billion and then getting a congratulatory pat on the back for that? It defies logic and common sense. I mean, really, like how can they even couch this or frame this as a success in any sense of the word with a straight face? Like, this is, man, they're laughing in our faces is what it is. They're absolutely laughing in our faces. And, you know, the globbers, the globetards out there, just eat this crap up. That, well, it was a success. Yeah, it was a huge success. Booster explodes after separation. Contact with Starship lost. Big success. A few seconds after the booster separated from Starship, it experienced rapid unplanned disassembly. The booster was supposed to land in the Gulf of Mexico. The Starship, however, went on to successfully enter space before SpaceX lost data link with the spaceship. So they don't even know what happened to the $10 billion Livemobile. It was later confirmed that Starship had also undergone rapid unplanned disassembly. That's the fourth time they've mentioned it in this article. They think it's funny. It says, "We have lost the data from the second stage. We think we may have lost the second stage." SpaceX's LiveStream host John Insprucker said, "I wonder how much they're paying him annually to do that job." Bermuda Triangle junk, says Duck Duck Goose. Right. The Starship was supposed to complete a partial trip round the Earth, almost obtaining orbital velocity, before belly flopping into the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii. So tell me again how this was a success. It couldn't even do a belly flop. It exploded on the way to doing a belly flop, and that's a huge success. Saturday's launch was originally supposed to occur on Friday, November 17th, but SpaceX delayed the attempt to swap out one of Super Heavy's grid fins. These waffle iron-shaped structures helped the booster to steer its way back to Earth after launch. Oh boy, oh boy. SpaceX was forced to blow up Starship during its first test flight 4 minutes after launch back on April 20th because the two stages failed to separate. The rocket disintegrated into a ball of fire and crashed into the Gulf of Mexico, sending a dust cloud over a town several kilometers away. Another huge success, obviously. Learning from its mistakes, SpaceX made several changes to its design. The biggest change relates to how the spaceship separates from the booster. So again, John Paul says, is it hydrogen or helium blowing up? Right. Well, I think they're probably still claiming to use the solid state rocket fuel, right? I don't know. I think it probably is just helium. If there's anything at all going up, you know, it's going to be a buoyant sort of thing, right? It says the biggest change relates to how the spaceship separates from the booster. The Starship has been modified to use hot staging, which means the upper stage engines will ignite while it is still attached to the booster, an approach that is commonly used in Russian rockets and could unlock far greater power. So, you know, this is so stupid because, like, honestly, they're acting like they're trying to learn how to fly a rocket to the moon. So what, are they now coming clean and admitting that they never went before and that's why they're having to relearn how to do it? Or are they going with Don Pettit's old shtick where they've destroyed that technology and it's a painful process to build it back again, right? Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I'm hireable. I do work outside of the home. I've got another job that I should be starting this week, God willing, if everything goes well. And it's hard to go from working for yourself to working for someone else. I mean, I work well with others. I'm a team player and all, but I prefer to do manual stuff. I prefer to do construction. I really can't. I can't work like I used to because I broke my back in a motorcycle accident back in 2014, and I don't bend certain ways. My arm doesn't work 100%. Luckily, I can still play the guitar, but it's more my shoulder. Like, I don't have full range of motion in one of my arms, so I can't do the stuff that I enjoy, which is more manual. I don't mind working behind a desk per se, and I can, you know, I've got skills with you know, sales, marketing, graphic design, different things. I've got office skills, print shop skills, but you know, again, it's hard to go back to working for somebody else when you're used to working for yourself. But you know, I'm willing to do anything. I mean, I'm definitely not a stick in the mud. But thanks for the compliment. I appreciate that. Okay. Other changes include improvements to vents to decrease the likelihood of an explosion. Well, it looks like that failed miserably, or was that another major success too? Wow. The first launch also caused massive damage to the company's launch pad at Starbase. And this has now been reinforced with high-strength concrete and a system that will jet water to protect against the enormous heat and force generated by the launch. So yeah, so SpaceX is just crushing it, man. Absolutely crushing it. They only wasted $10 billion yesterday. So, you know, maybe Elon Musk is up for another raise at SpaceX, or is he even still with SpaceX? I lose track of what all he's involved in, right? Elon Musk. Wow, that's something. But okay, that covers basically everything I wanted to talk about, you guys, today. So I appreciate you sitting here hanging out with me, letting me vent a little bit. If I don't go live next week, it's not because I don't want to. It's because I don't know where I'm going to be. So definitely keep us in your prayers. Yeah, flat enough. I mean, I definitely have a future. Man, I think I'm going to quit smoking. So I went to the store earlier today. Quick story. And there was a guy, his car, well, first I got stuck behind him and his car broke down, and I went around him. went to the store, and then he was pushing it uphill. So of course I pulled over and helped a guy push his car up the hill and got it off the road. And man, I thought I was gonna absolutely die. I gotta quit smoking, man. So that's what I'm gonna do. It's a motherfucker. Like, quitting smoking is a very hard thing to do, but I think with nicotine patches and maybe a lozenge or something, I got to do it. I couldn't believe how much, like, I've always been pretty, cardiovascularly capable. And so just pushing that dude's car uphill, I mean, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't all that hard either. And it really shocked me how much it affected me. So, yeah, I gotta quit smoking, man. John Paul says he's 47 years old, and it's like, what are we going to do for the second half of our lives? Right. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I have no idea. Like, I'm sure something good will come down the pipeline. I've got faith. I always try to keep a positive attitude. I know that it's going to have to involve fixing my credit and home ownership, but it's a tough thing to do, man. Like, if you don't have family, I still think that we should create some sort of a flurfer community, like not a hypothetical online virtual community in cyberspace, but like an actual physical flurfer community. If you've ever been to any of the meetups or like the flurfer conventions or whatever, it's a totally different experience being around people where you're actually in the majority in terms of the way we view the world, our paradigm. It would be nice to live around nothing but flurfers, honestly. I think maybe in the next few years we'll see something like that happen. I have such a positive outlook, man. Like, I know that there's a lot of potential. There's a lot of good people out there, and I know that I'm capable of a lot of things that I'm not able to apply myself to because the opportunity's not there. And I wish there was. Like, I wish I was able to apply my skills and talents towards something constructive and creative. Like, I would love to, to sail south. Honestly, I'd love to do something like that. Frankly, it should be like, let's just do away with NASA, right? Let's do away with NASA and let's start an actual boldly going where no people has gone before, right? Instead of the money laundering scam that NASA is. You know what I mean? And I think something like that's possible. I don't think Donald J. Trump's the answer necessarily, like some people do. I think that anything that participates in the current political or monetary system is just going to fail, like, necessarily. Like, we got to get rid of the Fed. We've got to, get them to stop poisoning our damn water. We got to get them to stop poisoning our children's mind in the indoctrination curriculum. And I think with those basic starting points, a lot of stuff will just fall into place. But again, like, I think it really starts with the water. In my opinion, I think we've really got to go that direction with it because, in my opinion, a lot of the apathy that we see with people that we love and care about, just so apathetic about the truth and really guard themselves from the truth. I think a lot of that has to do with the developmental neurotoxin that is sodium fluoride in the water. It's shown to cause people to be more docile, less prickly, if you will. And I think if we change that and those other couple things is a good damn start. Hopefully we'll see it in our lifetimes. So anyway, guys, love y'all very much. Keep us in your prayers. If you want to help us keep this hotel room for another week, please do. Links will be below. And if I don't post regularly, or at least keep y'all updated, it's not because I don't want to. It's because I physically am not able. But keep us in your prayers. Love y'all much, and we'll see you very soon in the next ones. Bye now.